Ladies and gentlemen, once more welcome to yet another one of my Game of Thrones videos. And this time I'm going to be using stills and possibly footage from the show, considering I'm not doing a review of some leaked episode. Before I get started though, there are a whole lot of complaints when it comes to the quality of episode 6 and how some aspects did not make sense. Some of the questions asked there I have answers to, some I have theoretical, logical answers to, and some I have no answers to. There's also this whole fuss about how the show is going downhill without GRRM's material to fall back to. I want to be nice here, but I'm gonna be honest. I think this is just a preconceived notion causing this kind of opinion and doesn't mean it is necessarily true. Now I've tried to answer all the questions on my previous video, but I'll try to make a separate video answering all your questions, so if you have any, please make sure you drop them down in the comments. But anyway, in my review of the leaked episode, I mentioned something about the Night King possibly being unable to harm Jon Snow. I kind of justified that with the possible link he might have with Bran Stark after he's placed his mark on him. But while my review video was uploading, I was browsing the internet for Game of Thrones news when I stumbled upon this article on the Sun website. The article presented a theory that was recently floated on Reddit around 2 months ago, one that suggests the villainous Night King might after all be none other than Bran Stark. Now I usually do not present the theories of others unless I have a certain level of belief these theories might actually hold some water, a condition that does hold true in this case. Besides, if you know me well, as in you have been a subscriber or a frequent viewer of my channel, you know I would add a whole ton of my own bullshit to the theory to find a way to support it. So let's start with my BS first. I suppose everyone remembers how the show started for Bran. On the series premiere, Jaime was the biggest villain there is, as he pushed Bran out of the window to the tower, where Bran witnessed him and Cersei going at it. And what did this make of Bran and what did it make of Jaime? The former ended up being the victimized child, and the latter ended up being the biggest villain we could imagine. The show pretty much presented us with the villain we should supposedly hate for eternity, and the victim we should love for the very same eternity. Now when I mentioned this arc of Jaime's and Bran's from the premiere, you realize you haven't really forgotten about it, but it's sort of in the back of your head. Now that you've been looking at Jaime in a different light, he's been transformed over the better portion of 6 seasons and the majority of the 7th into this kinder and somewhat softer person, and that's the Jaime you remember. And a lot of theories out there see Jaime as this guy who will end up saving the day. Some even go as far as claiming he might be Azor Ahai, aka the prince that was promised. On the other hand, every single time you look at a crippled Bran, your memory of that scene comes to mind, but the way he's become this smug, arrogant person makes you kinda dislike him a bit, even though you still do sympathize with him. My question here simply is, what if we were given one of our biggest antagonists and one of our biggest protagonists right off the bat, only we were given them with their roles reversed? Besides that, this theory would agree perfectly with the Night King's behavior on the penultimate episode of the current season, whereby he did not try and kill Jon Snow or go for him. It would also explain why he went for taking a dragon out of the sky rather than the dragon next to Jon, and the one that he was supposed to use for his escape. I know a whole bunch of fans claim the 2 dragons in the sky were immediate threats, which they were, by the way, but if you're such a perfect marksman shooting down a moving target, and at such a distance, wouldn't you have taken out Daenerys instead? After all, she's the one that commands the dragons and controls them, and at that point, she was a stationary target. I might be wrong here, or there might be something that I'm missing, but I'm just wondering. This theory could also indicate that the Night King was waiting right there for the dragons to show up, that he knew they would come and that he wanted them to make it there. Contrary to some assumptions made by some fans, the Night King cannot see into the future, and neither could Bran. So far, we know for sure that Bran only sees into the past and the present. But if he were to be Bran, he would know of the arrival of the dragons because Bran already lived through this, not the incident itself, but the time period, and hence he will get wind of all of this happening. Okay, I'm done with my part here. That was for dramatic effect and to get you all in the mood to give what I'm about to present here the benefit of the doubt, and I hope you already are in that mood. So let's see what the Reddit user Turmoil26 had to present in this theory. The man believes as we get closer to the end and with a lot of people dying, Bran will probably decide to travel back in time, given his current abilities, to try and stop the Night King, his armies, and the events that transpired from their existence. Now within the fold of his theory, he interpreted the words the 3-eyed raven told Bran, "You'll never walk again, but you'll fly," to mean that he would be capable of traveling through time. That's not really a bad assumption since we already know that is true. He then goes to state that Bran's abilities would allow him to affect past events, the way he did by warging into Willis, making him become Hodor. The assumption going forward from this point is all about Bran's very own scenario of self-fulfilling prophecy. Bran would end up believing he's able to rewrite history, tries it, goes back in time several times, tries to stop the Night King, only to be met by failure every single time, ending up at one point becoming the Night King himself. According to Turmoil 26's theory, the first time he attempts to stop the Night King, he attempts to prepare the Mad King for the White Walkers, whispering to him the same way he whispered to Ned Stark and was actually heard on the Season 6 finale. His whispers there would have been about preparing wildfire under King's Landing for a future attack, one we've not seen yet as viewers. But instead the Mad King went crazy, hearing all these whispers, and tried to burn the city in the process. The theory then goes to claim the second time he tried to enforce such a change, he ended up becoming Bran the Builder, which is already a running theory. He built the wall and secured his berth by establishing Winterfell and creating the saying, "There must always be a Stark in Winterfell." The final trip though, according to this theory, goes way into the past to write about when the Night King was created, and this is when the theorist gives us multiple options, but all of them lead to one outcome. Bran pretty much wargs into the man who becomes the Night King in his attempt to stop his birth as the Night King. Now, being that deep into the past, the theorist assumes that Bran gets stuck, unable to make it back to his present. Right then and there, he references Brendan's warning to him not to stay too long in the past as a sign of the possibility this could be its byproduct. It is beautiful beneath the sea, but if you stay too long, you'll drown. From that point though, the theory is pretty straightforward. The Night King is immortal and has all the time in the world. He ends up being stuck behind the wall he builds himself as Bran the Builder later on, waits for thousands of years for his younger self to be born. He knows when exactly to mark a younger Bran, and possibly even kills Brendan for hiding the truth about what would become of him. Finally though, the last piece of evidence this theory utilizes is all about the time when Bran went back to the moment of creation of the Night King. Now this in my opinion is the weakest part of his theory, but he references the way Bran tightens his grip on his own veins like he was experiencing the pain as the dragon glass went through the man who would become the Night King. He also references the way he lies in the exact same position as the man pushed to the tree. Now I'm not saying this theory is necessarily true, but it does have a certain appeal to it. Some viewers are very skeptical because of the absence of GRRM material to fall back on the show. Others are skeptical because of this commonly perceived notion the show might be heading downhill because we're not getting enough explanations. I'd like to state that we're not used to getting explanations right away every single time. The only reason for this kind of skepticism is because of the fact I mentioned on the beginning of this video, that being the preconceived notion the show is getting screwed. But if you think about it, if this theory were to be true and Jon Snow were to be Azor Ahai and Bran were to be the Night King, then we're heading into an extremely rough ending for the Night Walker's arc. One that will be extremely gloomy for the Starks as well. Besides, I really like the appeal of the ending being twisted and a total reversal of the beginning. Because of that, what would be way better in my opinion is, Azor Ahai or not, have Jaime be the one to kill Night King Bran in the end. That would just be so poetic in my opinion, the way the beginning and the end are almost identical, yet extremely different. So let me know in the comments what you think of this theory, and once more remember, I'm not claiming I'm the brains behind it. My only additions to this theory are all about the Jaime part, but other than that, it's all Turmoil 26 from Reddit. Now if you don't agree with this theory, let me know in the comments why you don't agree and what parts of the theory did not seem to work for you. Uploading an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5 video next, but until then, thanks for watching and have a great day.